All right, folks. Hello. Hello. Welcome to Jester After Dark. Hi guys. Hello. Uh all right. We made enough we got enough contributions during the last stream, so I'm doing a second stream. Um hello AMA Gaming. Hello. I know you like the After Dark specials we have here. Hello SoCal. Who else we got here? We got Jester Daddy. Yes, hello, SoCal. Okay. Yeah, John Gray. Yes, I believe that was actually Two Steps from Hell. Love Two Steps from Hell, John Gray. Hello, Diego. I saw that you got a new username. Fantastic. Doug on the left. Hello. Okay, guys. Um, so uh Drusilla, no, you should be asleep, Drusilla. Hello, Drusilla. Okay. Uh, yes, I do think you're pretty, Doug. I do. I think you specifically, Doug. I've never seen you, but okay, yes, I do think you're all very pretty. Um, thank you, AMA Gaming. Yeah, you can thank Meowsword for that. Um, quite a brilliant graphic designer there. Uh, okay, guys. So today in the stream, someone mentioned during our little Q&A session. Someone mentioned what battle do I think uh in history uh, it was the most brilliant in terms of the victory. Okay. Uh, uh, ah, Jay Shadow, I'm sure you are pretty, Jay Shadow. Okay. You're all very pretty. Okay. I'm sure. Uh, okay. So, what I'm going to do is these are very casual kind of streams. All right. I'm just going to briefly talk about the Battle of Canae. I'm going to show you a little video about it and talk about it with you. It's kind of like my Roman Empire. Okay, it literally is about the Roman Empire. I maybe it's because I'm a man. I don't know, but I find military history super interesting. So I'm just going to tell you about the Battle of Cannae, and then we can just kind of chat. Maybe whatever you guys want to talk about, we can do that. I can show you some other stuff if you're interested. But first, I wanted to show you something since it is Jester After Dark. Okay, I wanted to show you earlier in the stream today. There you go, Jay Shadow. Okay. I wanted to show you in the stream earlier, one of our new people over on Twitch asked me if I prefer rapiers or sabers. And I have a saber back on the wall, but I do also have a rapier. So I'm going to show you my rapier. Give me a second. So this is a rapier. Okay. Now I cannot fence. I wish I could. I've always wanted to learn how to. But this is a rapier. Oh gosh, I'm kind of getting it in the way here. This is a particular kind of sword. Has a great handle. This one is not a historic sword. This one is a modern creation that someone got for me. It is a very well constricted SoCal. Uh, and a rapier is a very thin sword. All right. You see, this is a guard. The hilt here has a guard on it to prevent your hand from being hit by the person you're combating with. Okay. And if I were to draw the rapier, you can see it's very thin. I'm going to pull it back here. Okay. So this is a rapier. You can see here, very thin blade. And the point of a rapier being that you can move very quickly. Okay. You can stabby, stabby. Uh, and get in between slots in the person's armor and things like that. Which is why if I had to choose, I would choose the rapier because it is so much faster than a saber. A saber, you got to swing around and it's not very good for stabbing. I know this is nerdy, just bear with me here, okay? So a rapier being more efficient at that sort of thing would be. Uh, there you go, Doug on the left, okay? Goes to show the adage, a man with a sword never has one, is strictly for cis folks. Yeah. I got swords, folks. Actually, I only have two. I also have a German medieval crossbow. What else do I have? I have a Cherokee warhammer. Most of these were gifts from people. What else do I have? I have a Zulu shield that from Kenya, but this is the rapier. Okay, and so that is a rapier, very thin. You see, if you like the Three Musketeers, if anyone has ever seen the Three Musketeers, these are kind of the swords that they would use. Well, they also used epées, which are much thinner, but that is a rapier. Okay. You have some used piano wire. Hello, Michael. Okay. All right. So that's a rapier. Just wanted to show off my rapier to all of you. I know that sounds dirty, but it is Jester after dark, so I can get away with that. Okay. Uh, all right. I got to put it back in its scabbard here. Okay. All right. Now, let us talk as now that Meowzord's here, we can talk because Meowzord made me think about this earlier during the earlier stream. A battle that I think is super interesting. Obviously, folks, we're not going to talk about the morality of this stuff. We're doing this for fun, okay? Uh, so yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of slaughter, but we gotta think of the badassery of it a little bit too, right? I mean, come on, we're human, right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the Battle of Canae. So let's get started, shall we? Uh, all right. So I'm gonna put the normally when I do just for dark, I kind of turn down the lights a bit, get comfortable. So I'm gonna put on a blue light here, just to emphasize that. Give me a second here, folks. Where is it? There, that'll do it. Okay. It really has. This really has turned into after dark. It has. Okay. So, okay. Uh, okay. Govey for the win. Okay, so let's talk about it real fast, and then I'll show you a little clip. Okay. So, hello, Alyssa. Welcome, Alyssa. Okay. So, I just got finished showing my rapier to people. Okay. That is not code for anything. SoCal. Okay. So let's talk really quickly about the Battle of Canae. Now, I quickly made a little, a very like 2 slide presentation here. So, Battle of Canae. All right. We are going back. Hello, Lane. Okay. We are going back to the time of the Roman Republic. Rome had not yet become an empire, they were still a republic. Um, and they were starting their imperial expansions, however, all right? You can see here on this map, Rome was Italy. They had taken Sicily, some other parts of the Mediterranean, okay? Uh, so, SoCal, okay. Now, their biggest enemy in the Mediterranean at this time was an empire, a city-state empire called Carthage. And the Romans, this was had defeated them in several wars and taken a lot of their territory. And during that last war, okay, not the last war, but the war before the one we're talking about, um, uh, Hannibal, this is his name, okay, um, Barca, that's right, Hannibal Barca. All right, his father had fought the Romans and died in battle, and Hannibal witnessed him fight the Romans and I guess his grandfather, and then his other father got an injury fighting against the Romans. And as the his father lay dying, he turned to Hannibal and said, my greatest wish is for you to finish the job against the Romans. They almost had a blood feud going on here, okay? And Hannibal Barca had been raised to hate the Romans, and he had been raised in a military life, okay? He had spent much time with the Carthaginian military during his childhood, okay? And he devised what most historians would classify as one of the most brilliant military campaigns in human history, literally. I mean, the man was an absolute genius militarily. Like it just came to him naturally, kind of like Napoleon. You'll see what I mean here. Okay. So on this map, I want to point out that at this point, the Carthaginians no longer controlled the sea. The Romans were dominant at sea. So how the hell, if Hannibal wants to get his revenge against the Romans, how the hell is he going to get to Rome? You can see here, Carthage is down here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I hope you can. Maybe you can't. You probably can't. But at the very tip down here of Africa is, yep, this is exactly what it is, Drusilla. Okay. This is when Hannibal went over the Alps with elephants. Okay. At the very tip down here, let me, I'm going to make sure you can actually see my cursor. I think you can. Okay. So, Alan, hello, Alan. We are talking about the Battle of Canae, which I was brought up earlier by Malzord. Okay. So, you see here in the tip of Africa, the very top tip, I hope you can see what I'm pointing at here, is located Carthage. It's at the very northern tip of Africa, modern day Tunisia. And if you're going to get to Rome, which is up here, can you guys even see my cursor? I hope you can. If you're going to get to Rome, it's not going to be easy because there's a giant Mediterranean ocean sea there. Okay, the Mediterranean Sea. I almost said the Mediterranean Ocean. Okay, anyway, uh, and the Romans controlled that. So no cursor. That's so strange. It says it's supposed to be up here. Okay, well, I unfortunately not much I can do about that. I apologize, guys. So if you see Italy, which is this boot, I'm not sure why it's not showing the cursor. The boot. You know what? I have an idea. Maybe if I, yeah, I don't think it's you guys. I think it's something I'm doing probably. Now you can see my cursor. Can you? Okay. Yes, there it is. So you can see here. I do. I need to change the color of the cursor. Okay. So up here is Rome. I don't know if you can see it. My cursor moving on the map. I guess it's in presentation mode. Okay. Up here is Rome. All right. Down here is Carthage. Okay. The competing arch enemies of Rome. And in between the two is the Mediterranean Sea. And the Romans controlled that. And Hannibal wanted revenge to avenge his father, avenge the Carthaginian people against the Romans. Okay. And so he devised what can only be described as a ambitious, maybe slightly crazy, but genius plan. Okay. Now he raised an army, including a couple dozen elephants that the Romans had never had to face before, okay? And he took his army. He marched them all the way across here, all across northern Africa, crossed into Spain, landed over here, okay? The Romans did not know that this was coming, all right? And he was quite brilliant in how he did this. And he marched his army. This took months, by the way, because there's not like roads. I mean, there's Roman roads, but they haven't been built that far yet. Marched them all the way across Spain, across southern France, over the Alps, which is not a like little mountain range. That is a major mountain range. Okay, a major mountain range with snow-tipped peaks and stuff. Marched his army, which had elephants in it, across the Alps and into Italy. Okay, this next slide here is a image showing the absolutely, Drusilla. He did. He took brought a bunch of food. He had to be resupplied. He was a brilliant logistician, okay, and was able to keep himself resupplied. But as he crossed the Alps, folks, he lost most of his elephants. I think he lost all but like 12 of them because elephants don't survive very well in wintry conditions. He also lost about 1,000 troops. Yet he persisted. Okay, he really hated the Romans. As a matter of fact, the Romans also hated him. There was a famous Roman orator. I think it was Pliny. Was it Cato? It may have been. I can't remember who it was. I think it was. I think it was Pliny, who at the end of every speech in the Roman Senate he would like give a speech. I don't know. They'd be talking about like taxes on grain, and he would always end his speech with, "Oh, and by the way, I think we ought to wipe Carthage off the face of the map." Next speech he'd give, "Oh, well, by the way, I think we ought to wipe Carthage off the face of the map." Okay, so they hated each other, like really hated each other. So Hannibal crossed the Alps with his elephants and this army. And as he entered Italy, he faced the Roman legions, who were, by all accounts, the most powerful military force in the area. And he was outnumbered in every single one of these first three battles. The battles, you can see the path here on the. It's in green. I'm gonna put it back up here so you can see. Okay, you can see the path here. It's marked. He had to fight 3 battles, all even though he was outnumbered in every single one of those first 3 battles, he soundly defeated the Romans, soundly, pretty easily, through brilliant tactics, okay? He lost a lot of troops in the process, to the point where, the Romans, were like, "Shit, we cannot beat him in open battle." So they literally went into Rome and hid behind the walls of Rome, and he had free reign over Italy. He was pillaging, he was taking grain for himself, and, the Romans basically were like, "We if anytime we fight him, we're losing," okay? Even though he was massively outnumbered, and by this point, the Romans outnumbered his troops by about 3 to 1. 3 to 1, and they could not stop him, okay? And this brings us to the Battle of Cannae, because the Romans eventually got tired of sitting behind their walls, and they were worried that Hannibal would start having the cities around Rome rise up against them. So they sent out very large Roman army, twice the size of Hannibal's army, and that will bring us to the Battle of Cannae. Okay, so now, um, I have a little bit of a video here for you because if anyone knows kings and generals, they do a really good job at explaining these battles. Now, when we talk about military genius, okay, there, especially when you're outnumbered 2 to 1, okay, you have to consider all the things that you have to think about when doing this sort of thing. You have to consider how many troops the enemy has. You have to consider the terrain. You have to know your troops really well. You have to guess the enemy's tactics. Hannibal planned this whole thing out in advance. He knew exactly what he was doing when he faced the Romans that day. As you're going to see, he had it planned out almost perfectly. Okay. So let's see what happens at the Battle of Cannae. Okay. I might skip certain parts. I did go to the part so let's see what happens. I think this map here was great so you can actually see what happens.
Enclosed by the Alpheus to the west and hilly terrain to the east. The consuls placed a contingent of Roman cavalry on their right wing.
So the consuls, the 2 Roman generals, that's what he says when he means consuls. Those are the Romans. These are their formation over here, right here. Okay.
Along the river, which would be led by Paulus. The center of the formation was taken by the heavy foot, deployed in very close maniples, the depth of each several times greater than its front. The infantry formation was led by Marcus Attilius and Gnaeus Servilius, consuls for the previous year, now serving as proconsuls. The left
these
was
are kind of unnecessary details, but
under Varro's command. A screen of light infantry was placed in advance of the whole army, which numbered up to 80,000 foot and 6,000 horse.
Notice how Hannibal has arrayed his troops, okay? Notice it's in this weird arc position. Like, what the hell is he doing? Why is there a big arc out in front? Okay. Like I said, Hannibal does everything for a reason, okay?
The Roman army appeared as a solid block, a massive fist ready to deliver a deadly punch to Hannibal's face. As for General Barca, he knew he had the cavalry advantage, both in quantity and quality.
Barca is Hannibal, that's his last name.
However, his overall troops were outnumbered 2 to 1, so he had to go for a more complex battle order. From west to east, his troops were arranged as follows. Close to the Alpheus, the Iberian and Gallic cavalry, led by one Hasdrubal, not a Barca, and facing Paulus's horse. Then a column of elite Libyan heavy infantry, equipped.
By the way, I'm going to be naming, if I ever have a kid, I'm going to name them Hasdrubal. I love the Carthaginian names. Hasdrubal, Barca, okay.
With armor and weapons looted from the Romans. The center of this formation was taken by a crescent-shaped line of Iberian and Gallic infantry bulging towards the Romans. Hannibal himself and his brother Mago stood in command of the center. On the other end of the crescent stood another column of Libyans, flanked to the east by a wing of Numidian horse led by Mahabal and facing Varro. The entire formation was screened by a line of Balearic slingers and javelin throws.
This is sort of irrelevant.
Numbers-wise, Hannibal...
Just know, okay, the main thing I want you to get away from this is that on each of the flanks, as they're called in military terms, are cavalry, so horsemen. On each of the flanks, both of the Romans and Hannibal. In the middle here, you have infantry that on Hannibal's side that are kind of arced out like this, all right?
Could field about 40,000 foot and 10,000 cavalry, but his real strength lay in the peculiar formation. Crucially, the columns of Libyan infantrymen were not immediately visible to the Romans, as they had been placed slightly behind the edges of the convex crescent, standing in reserve.
Have you ever wanted to see your home from space?
Well, that ruins
With this
it.
free
Okay,
satellite
we'll get
Earth
to
Maps tool, you can zoom right.
As the sun scorched the earth, a southerly wind began blowing clouds of dust into the faces of the Romans, further hindering their visibility.
Oops.
Clearly, Hannibal had no control over the elements, but the wind played to his advantage. His entire plan relied on luring the impatient and reckless Roman heavy foot into the pincer of his Libyan columns, theoretically in plain sight, but virtually invisible
You'll
to
see
his
what that
enemies.
means.
The bait placed in front of the hungry she-wolf was the apparently weak and bulging Carthaginian center.
Yeah,
Now
he also placed some of his weakest troops in the center of his line. Oh, I know SoCal. Okay, okay.
It's time to set the master deceit in motion. The three Parcae had already been hard at work. Nona had spun the threads of the lives of thousands of young men. Decumer had measured them, and mortar would soon cut them. The Carthaginian Lightfoot surged forward, clashing against their Roman counterpart. Their engagement was indecisive, with neither side gaining an advantage. Next, cavalry commander Hasdrubal sent forth his Iberian and Gallic cavalry, colliding head-on with Paulus's horse. Their movements were hindered by the Aufidus to the west, with both formations failing to perform any outflanking maneuver.
So remember, Hannibal knows he has more cavalry than the Romans do, even though he's outnumbered 2-1, so he's going ahead and attacking the Roman cavalry. He's doing that on purpose.
Their engagement degenerated into a chaotic melee. The horses came to a standstill, and the riders grappled with each other, dragging their enemies to the ground. The horsemen dismounted and fought bitterly on foot until Hasdrubal got the upper hand, forcing the Roman cavalry into a flight. As Paulus's men fled north along the river, the Iberian and Gallic horsemen gave chase, cutting them down from behind. Meanwhile, in the center of the battle lines, both light infantry contingents had exhausted their strength and retreated behind the heavy foot. It was time for the latter to engage. Baying for blood, the front lines of the Romans charged at the Carthaginian crescent. Spurred on by Hannibal and Mago, the Iberian and Gallic foot fought gallantly, checking the enemy's advance. But more and more legionnaires pressed forward, gradually turning the convex line into a concave shape. The Romans converged to the very center of the enemy battalions, adopting a wedge-like formation of ever-mounting mass. The Carthaginian line caved under the pressure, retreating to the south, but not quite breaking up yet.
So notice that the troops at the center of Hannibal's line are probably the most tired at this point because they were out in the front. They've been having to fight the longest, which means that they're being pushed back faster, which is creating, you'll see.
As the Romans appeared to be on the cusp of winning the infantry engagement, their cavalry wing under Varro was facing off against the fierce Numidian horse led by Mahabal. The majority of the Numidians attacked according to their signature tactics, which was riding around the enemy while discharging volleys of javelins. According to Livy, however, some 500 of them appeared to defect to the Romans. They were welcomed into the Romans' ranks, but ordered to stay in the rear, which is when they sprung their perfidious trap. Unsheathing their concealed swords, they attacked Varro's Italic horsemen from the back, hacking at their hamstrings. Caught between the hammer and the anvil, the Italic cavalry broke and rode away to the safety of their camp, pursued by the Numidians. Varro himself, surrounded by a handful of horsemen, fled from the battlefield.
Oops. Now wait for it. That was only part of the plan.
Paulus would not be so lucky as to escape with his life. After losing the cavalry engagement on the Roman right wing, the consul joined the center. Though severely wounded, he continued to incite his infantry to smash through the Carthaginian line. The latter finally appeared to break, and a flood of Roman soldiers continued to pour into the fray.
Okay.
Finally, the Iberian and Gallic soldiers appeared to be breaking into a flight. But was this a spontaneous reaction of a defeated formation, or was it all part of Hannibal's master plan?
It was.
Neither Polybius nor Livy provide clarity, but they do agree on one point. Just when the Carthaginian center seemed doomed, the columns of elite Libyans wheeled inwards and started hacking at the Romans. Confusion had taken over. One moment the legionnaires were fighting as a compact fist against a single line of foes. The next, they were attacked from the sides by men clad in Roman equipment. The Iberian and Gallic soldiers reformed their line, and they too started pressing inwards. The biconsular army was now an amorphous heap of desperate men encircled by 3 walls of disciplined, relentless killers.
And then where's Hannibal's cavalry? Where is Hannibal's
cavalry? After winning their respective cavalry battles, both Hasdrubal and Mahabal showed great restraint, and instead of continuing the pursuit of their defeated enemies, wheeled their horse around and charged southwards, smashing into the Roman rear. With the help of his trusted commanders, Hannibal Barca had achieved the nigh impossible, the complete encirclement of a force twice the size of his army. As Hannibal had almost sealed his masterpiece in Roman blood, a secondary action was taking place. Before the battle had commenced, Paulus had stationed 10,000 foot soldiers inside his main camp, on the western bank of the Aufidus. Acting on previous orders, these soldiers staged a sortie, marched southwards and attacked the Carthaginian camp, also on the western bank. Their action appeared successful at first, but the Carthaginian garrison held them back.
Okay, I'm going to go forward a bit.
Pushed down 2,000 of the fleeing enemies and surrounded the rest in their camp. Break the boundaries of the killing field. But too many soldiers were falling under the Carthaginian steel, including dozens of centurions, tribunes, and even the proconsuls Attilius and Servilius.
So all these high-up government officials were part of that military, and they're all being cut down. All these Roman elites are being killed in this crap.
Actually, also Paulus fell on the ground, covered in blood but still breathing. Tribune Gnaeus Lentulus rode by his side and bade him to take his horse and ride to safety. Make not this battle calamitous by a consul's death. Even without that, there are tears and grief enough. But Paulus refused. Waste not in unavailing pity the little time you have to escape the enemy. Go and tell the senators in public session to fortify the city of Rome and garrison it strongly before the victorious enemy draws near. As for me, let me breathe my last in the midst of my slaughtered soldiers. Indeed, that was what the battle had turned into, a one-sided slaughter. Mortar, the third Parca, had severed the threads of thousands of soldiers, falling into a lake of their own blood, as Hannibal's fist tightened without respite.
The record actually says that there was so much blood in this little area where these Roman legionnaires are being cut down that it was past the ankles of some of the men that were fighting. Blood and bodies just hacking away at these Roman legionnaires.
Romans and their allies, compressed into a killing field of ever-decreasing area, had little space to breathe, let alone to raise their arms and fight. The cavalry had been almost annihilated. Out of 6,000 horsemen, only 70 escaped with Varro to Venusia, some 60 kilometers to the south of Canae, and 300 dispersed to other nearby towns. The infantry did not fare much better.
Okay.
According to Polybius and Livy, only 3,000 managed to escape, but some 70,000 were slain during the
70,000 Roman troops were slaughtered by a force half their size, okay?
Encirclement. Almost every family in Italy would mourn the loss of a husband, a father, a son, or a brother. The military leadership of the Republic had also been almost decapitated. Rome had lost 1 consul, 2 proconsuls, former co-dictator Marcus Minucius, 29 tribunes, 80 senators, and an unspecified number of praetors. Hannibal, on his part, had lost only 5,700 men in total.
So he only lost 5,000. The Romans lost 70,000. Okay.
But the engagement was not over yet.
All right. So there you go. That's the Battle of Canae. Eventually, Hannibal was defeated. Okay. Because it was just hard for him because he was so far away from his supplies. Yeah, but that is considered he's considered one of the most brilliant military commanders in history. You can see he planned that. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. He's like, okay, it's easy. I'll beat a Roman legion that's twice my size. Psh, no problem. I got this. Okay. There's a lot of weird coincidences in history. They are just that, coincidences. But the name of the Roman commander who was defeated here was Paulus. 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 What's interesting about this is that the Battle of Stalingrad, okay, which happened later during World War II, the German commander in charge of Germany's forces, the Nazi German forces in Stalingrad, his name was Paulus. And the Soviets pulled a similar maneuver. They actually surrounded the German army And once again, Paulus was defeated by being surrounded by the enemy. A very interesting historical coincidence there. That you just don't name yourself Paulus if you're going to be going into a battle. Okay. Anyway, all right. So there you go. And eventually, Hannibal was defeated. He had to flee because he ran out of supplies. But he did definitely got some revenge. All right. Okay, guys. There you go. I hope that wasn't too out of nowhere. Okay. Uh, and honestly, the Romans deserved it. I mean, all the conquering and all the conquests and all the decimation and things like that that they had engaged in. Not that the Carthaginians were great. All right, back up to my face here. Okay, so that is the Battle of Canae. Um, funny enough, as I recall, also the Battle of Canae took place almost like on this like a certain number of years, almost exactly to the day that Paulus surrendered to the Soviets in a similar sort of maneuver in Stalingrad. Anyway, um, SoCal, I'd say maybe this is the Hannibal Trump keeps referring to, but we all know he isn't that intelligent to make the connection, right? He has no idea who the historical Hannibal is, that's for sure. Um, and it is funny, Hannibal Lecter. That's probably why they named him Hannibal Lecter in the movie and stuff, because he was brilliant. Okay, I love it, Meowsword. I have seen this um yeah, about the siege and fall of Constantinople. The Ottomans very brilliant also. That was a yeah. Um yeah. Soliman the Magnificent. Very fascinating stuff. Yeah, the Ottomans Meowser, I know you're talking to SoCal here, but the siege cannons that the Ottomans had, the bombars as they were called, were pretty badass. Yeah, Mehmet the Great, is a cutie, totally Meowsword. In that series, Ottomans are pretty cool. In a lot of ways, their conquest of Constantinople. Constantinople put up a good fight, but couldn't really hold out. So anyway, there you go. There's my hyper masculine love of battles for all of you. Maybe some other time we'll talk about some more. Like we're going to talk eventually about the Battle of Stalingrad because it's so historically important. I don't often get to talk about military history stuff because although it's interesting, it's also not terribly relevant to the lives of everyday people, if that makes sense. Uh, oh my God, John Gray, I'm going to do a talk sometime about the First and Second Crusades and the Children's Crusade and the horrific things they did. I agree, Meowsword. I think military tactics are fascinating. Okay, you know what? It is after dark. Let me tell you all a story here. So you all know me. I say this like every day. I guess I'm fixated on myself. I'm a gay man, right? And when I was in university, Ohio State University, that's where I did my undergraduate stuff. I was in an honors program and I was in the history department, and there were certain courses that were military history courses that were run by literal generals. One was General Paulus, or not General Paulus, I'm sorry, Petraeus, who had been one of the main architects of the surge in Iraq, had served under Bush, and he was actually teaching a course called World War II, and there were a couple other ones too. And there were either two qualifications for getting into these classes. One, you had to be a member of the ROTC, so and basically an officer in training for the military, um, or you had to be an honor student. I was an honor student, so here goes little gay me, okay, into this military history class. And, I was the only honor student in there. The entire rest of the class, well, I'm sorry, that's a lie. I was one of 2 honor students in there. The rest of the class was all ROTC in uniform. So here comes little gay me into this classroom, and then there's everyone else in the class except for one person is ROTC in uniform, sitting, like, perfectly there. I come walking in with fingernail polish on and like, "Oh, this is gonna be so fun." And they all turn and look at me like, "What the hell is this fairy doing in here?" And it was a really good class, though. They were all very nice, by the way, but, so fascinating. Yeah, right, I'm like, "Oh, men in uniform, okay, no," but so, it was, very interesting, it was kind of mortifying, but it was a super interesting class, so, yeah, I 'cause I thought military history was super interesting, I still do. Although I did take a class about the Vietnam War that was not as great. It was another one of these ROTC type classes, but the professor there was more conservative and kept trying to do apologia for America being in Vietnam, which I would get into arguments with him. Anyway, regardless, yeah, interesting experience I had there. Okay. Uh, all right, guys. So, yeah, Malzord, I went to Quebec and my wife told me to put my phone down. I kept learning about battle. Uh, oh my God, Meowzord, you're after my heart here, Meowzord. The Battle of the Plains of Abraham, super interesting. Also, incompetence on both sides there. It is John Gray. Vietnam is very sad to learn about for multiple reasons. It's embarrassing. It's also sad for the people there. It's sad for the American troops. It's sad all around. The Vietnamese people. Yeah, the Battle of Plains of Abraham, super interesting. Um, yeah, the French and the British made a lot of mistakes there. Yeah. Uh, oh, SoCal. Okay, SoCal says, so explain to me, if you will, what the obsession so many OSU grads have with you must use the Ohio State University. Honestly, so that's a lot of the advertising they do is the Ohio State University. I think because a lot of the OSU grads have heard it so much when they were at OSU, it just gets stuck in their heads. They don't mean to do it. That's what I've noticed. There are a lot of OSU people who are very into OSU because of the sports. I was never into that. I don't know. Did I say the? If I did, I didn't mean to. But it is also, and what annoys me about OSU, Ohio State University, for those who don't know, um, is that there's such a focus on sports at that school that a lot of the academics gets kinda left out, and OSU is a very good school academically. Like, they put out more psychological research than almost any other university in the country. They do a lot of really good work, but that kinda gets put under the rug because of the sports, and it's always kinda bothered me. But yeah. King Allen, I watched a video recently on the tactics the Afghan soldiers used and how they were so effective. Yeah, Alan. The interesting thing about Afghanistan, Alan, is it has been nicknamed by historians the graveyard of empires because the British tried to occupy Afghanistan, they were defeated. The Soviet Union tried to occupy Afghanistan, they were defeated. America tried to occupy Afghanistan, they were defeated. Or at the very least, they had to leave and they didn't really accomplish their goals because it's just such hard terrain, and the people that live there know the terrain very well, very well. And they have all these cave systems they can hide out in and such. Yeah, it's super interesting, Alan. I totally agree there. Okay. Um, so if anyone ever wants to nerd out with me over military history, please, I insist. Okay. I will again do a presentation sometime on the Battle of Stalingrad, which was pretty horrific. But one of the most important battles in history. Uh, okay, even though in America we don't talk about it as much because Americans weren't involved, but it basically spelled the end for the Nazis. Okay. Any other questions there? Now that I am making sure I didn't miss anything. Um, okay. Uh, so what shall we talk about now? Anything interesting in the news going on? Um, Yeah, I know. If only you're right, Meowsword. If only we had learned from Napoleon. Napoleon also so I've said this before, folks. There are very few historical figures in history that we kind of worship that actually deserve to be worshiped in terms of most of the time someone else probably could have done the same thing. There are a few exceptions to that where great man theory holds true. What I mean by that is that a particular individual if someone else was doing it, it would be different. Okay. Napoleon is one of those. Hannibal is one of those. There's a few other ones too, maybe Queen Elizabeth. But Napoleon was remarkably competent in his battles. What's the early Drusilla? What's the earliest battle um, we know details about? That's a hard question, Drusilla. I suspect it's something in China. One of the earliest battles we know about. Well, we know about some earlier ones in Mesopotamia. One of the earliest battles we know about was the battle of what was it called between the Hittites and Egypt. I'm gonna look it up real fast. Uh, Hittites, Egypt. What is it called? Battle. Um, Battle of Kadesh. Okay, and the Battle of Kadesh was a mess. It's kind of funny actually. Maybe I'll quickly show you an image here. Um, so warfare at this time during the Bronze Age was um, uh, a lot of chariots and stuff were being used still. Chariots are notoriously not easy to control. I can show you here. Here's an image we have of ancient hieroglyphics. Um, oh, well, this is going to show me the image there. Here we go. This is a good one. Okay. This is an image we have from ancient Egypt showing the pharaoh of Egypt at the time. Hello, pizza on a chariot going into this battle against the Hittites. And what's interesting is that it was kind of a how do I say this? Yeah, I love Egyptian hieroglyphics. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in a bit so you can see it better here. This was very long ago. I'm trying to remember when is it? When is it? Okay, so this is actually a it was like I don't know 2000 BC. And, it's very hard. I did pizza, I did get a haircut. It is very hard to control a chariot, okay? I mean, think about it. It's this rinky-dink little wheeled thing that's attached to a horse or 2 horses, and sometimes the horses move in ways you don't want them to. So the Egyptian pharaoh was on his chariot, and they started going towards the Hittites, and his horses moved faster. So he suddenly started getting pulled out in front of all of his troops, like, way out in front of all of his troops, like, way out, like, dangerously far out from his troops, and he could not control them, and he ended up he basically crashed into the enemy's side before anyone else did and was barely saved by his own troops because he had trouble controlling these 2 horses. Anyway, but it's just like an interesting historical thing. John Gray, what's everyone's favorite war uniform? I'm going with the yeah, I know, right, Drusilla? So much for being an avatar of Ra, right? You can't control your own horses. And folks, since it's late night here, I actually yeah, oh my God, pizza. I love armor of the Middle Ages. Weirdly enough, I'll tell you something about that here in a second. I actually know a little bit of ancient Egyptian. Allow me. I think some of you have heard this before. Aun au kumes ta'amuk kamuk matsuten tar utef ma'atu apu at ku apu at smet apu mtu mtar anuk aru. That is an ancient Egyptian prayer to Ra, one of their gods. It's one of the earliest prayers we have. Now we don't exactly know how their language sounded, but that is one of their prayers. Don't look at me that way, Druzel. Okay, yeah, so that is an ancient Egyptian prayer. Very interesting language. There's some remnants left of ancient Egyptian, okay? It's called the Coptic language. It still exists in Egypt today. There's a lot of Copts that still live in Egypt, and they're Christians typically. But we can kind of derive the ancient Egyptian language out of them, but it's a very interesting language. A lot of which I can barely do, okay? Okay, very interesting language there. Thank you, Drizel. Thank you. Okay. It's very hard on my throat. No jokes. No jokes. Okay. All right. Medieval armor. Who was it that just mentioned that? Was it pizza? Another interesting thing here, folks, about medieval armor. We typically there's this idea that medieval armor was heavy. Okay. Uh, all right. I'm gonna show you some images here. So here we go. Here we have, okay, some medieval armor. Okay. This looks pretty damn heavy, doesn't it? It's like layers and layers of metal. But we now know this was actually a pretty recent discovery. If anyone knows what chainmail is a different kind of armor, kind of an earlier form of armor. It looks like this for those who don't know. Chainmail. Uh, Here, this you sure you all have seen this is what chainmail looks like, okay? Chainmail. It was thought that chainmail was like better because it was lighter, you could move around easier in it. Wrong. This was actually harder to move around in than this. Okay, this was much easier to move around in because of how it was constructed. It was lighter and it had all these joints on it to make it very easy to move around in. So even though it looks heavy, it actually wasn't that heavy comparatively to other forms of armor. On a side note, one of the other reasons that doesn't get talked about why armor was used in the Middle Ages is because if you're a noble and you're up in your castle and you have a bunch of peasants around who don't have armor and you're going out to see your peasants and shit, and the peasants don't have armor and they don't have weapons, it keeps you safe from your own people, right? If you're wearing all armor, the peasants' pitchforks aren't going to be able to get through the armor. So armor was also an element of social control. It prevented non-noble people from being able to fight the nobles. Okay. Uh, yeah, you're right. John Gray here says, love to learn about tricks they use to hold their two-handed swords, half swording. Yeah, let me show you here. We actually have all the books from the Middle Ages showing how to use. So a lot of times, exactly, Meowsword. A lot of times, swords, especially broadswords, would be held in a very peculiar way um, that John Gray just mentioned. Okay, like this. This is called half swording because you can see here he's actually holding the blade with. He's holding it like so. If I were to pull out my rapier here, right, he'd be holding it like this, okay? So you would actually put one hand on the blade and kind of stab in like this for more control and things like that, okay? And people don't think about that, but they did because also it takes less energy. Like if you're swinging a heavy sword around for like a while in battle, you're going to get exhausted. So they would often hold it in one hand and stab in like this, okay? And that would be very useful, especially if, yeah, okay, it'd also allow you more control. Thank you, John Gray. So you could aim for the gaps in the armor. John Gray, I once joined an organization yes. Oh, sorry, Alan. Yeah. Speaking of Afghanistan, have you kept up with Trump threatening them and saying he wants the base back? Oh my God. Yep. Yep. Isn't that funny, Alan? Uh, Trump criticizing Biden for how he got out of there and stuff, and now he wants to go back in. It's insane. Yeah, you're right, John Gray. They would, hit with the pommel and things like that. Very interesting stuff. Um, there's also a really interesting sword. Okay, forgive me, I'm nerding out here. My autism is showing. There's also a very interesting sword called the Zweihandler. I'll show it to you. Uh, okay. This is a Zweihandler. Um, a very large sword, okay? You can see here's a good image of a guy holding one. Um, okay, you can see how big this thing is. Look at this little guy here trying to hold this Zweihandler. In German, it means like two hands, two-handed, okay? And what this thing would be used for, okay, you'd get the biggest guy to hold this sword. And there was a time in Europe where most armies fought with pikes, these long sticks that had a blade on the end, okay? And basically, you'd get the biggest guy in your crew to go in with the Zweihandler and just start cutting down the pikes, okay? So you'd have to swing this shit and like cut pikes so that they couldn't be used against you. Pizza, gladly. There are a lot of myths about the Middle Ages for sure. Um, anyone in particular you're thinking of? There's a lot of interesting. I right, I know SoCal. It's kind of hard not to when we're doing this. There are a lot of myths about the Middle Ages. Um, and for example, actually there wasn't that long of a time that full armor was worn. That's one thing. A lot of battle scenes in movies really depict this poorly. The medieval battles and stuff. Okay, there's a lot of myths about the Middle Ages out there. So that's a Zweihandler. Um, yeah. Okay. Did I miss anyone's comments here? Let me see. Um, okay, thank you. I will tell you. I will look at that pizza. Did I say any of them? I'm worried. Pizza. Did I say one of the myths? Because I'm not an expert on the Middle Ages. Okay. John Gray joined an organization called the SCA, and it was a group that would build their own armor and practice. That's really cool. I've seen. Yeah, that's really cool. There's a really good channel, if I can find it. There's a Japanese sword master. The katana, very cool sword. It was actually when the Europeans got to Japan, the Japanese were making higher quality swords with higher quality steel than the Europeans had. Um, uh, and let me see here if I can find it. There's a Japanese sword master who does videos where he tries out European weapons. Uh, sword master. Okay, good pizza. I know I'm paranoid. Thank you. I will take a look at that pizza. Japanese sword master. Okay. Uh, right. So, let me just let's. I'll show you this. So
There's
because
DIY.
he
And there's
tests
doing
out
it
a
yourself.
broadsword, which is a European
It's the
medieval
difference
kind of
between
sword.
All right, here's a video that people have asked me to talk about. Matt.
Oh, this is a Okay, I just want to see the original. Um, okay, here we go.
これね、
So this is
平で
very
叩け
short.
るかもしれない。
So Japan, very interesting military culture. This is a I'm going to talk about it on stream sometime. I know I keep saying these things. I have so many things I need to talk about on stream, but Japanese military culture, very interesting. Medieval military culture, the culture of the samurai, and things like that. If anyone wants to watch a really good movie that has one of the best depictions of Japanese warfare from the time I've ever seen, look up Ran, R-A-N. It is a Japanese movie. It's based off of Shakespeare, but it's set in Japan, and it's by a Japanese director, Kurosawa. Very good movie. Okay. It's kind of old now, but it still has the best scenes. Okay, I can think of. So let's see. It is absolutely fascinating. John Gray. It's beautiful too. Yeah, isn't it? Malzord. I should have guessed. I should have guessed, Malzord, that you would know this because you seem to be exposed to a lot of this cultural stuff. A lot of Americans don't know about Rand. I'm glad, John Gray and stuff. I highly recommend people watch Rand. It's also beautiful. Oh my God, Oda Nobunaga, fascinating character, John Gray, fascinating. His use of peasants and things like that. And also Tokugawa Ieyasu, also me too, Meowzord. I love movies. Okay. Tokugawa Ieyasu, Oda Nobunaga, um, really interesting historical characters. I recommend everyone go watch Shogun. Please watch Shogun if you're into history. It won all sorts of awards. Have you seen it, Meowzord? Have you seen Shogun? Um, uh, Very good movie. And a guy who's supposed to be Tokugawa. Yeah, RPB. Me too. Japanese culture. I've always wanted to visit. I'm very jealous of Meowzord because he's been there. Um, yes, you're right, John Gray. He used it against the Takeda cavalry and things like that, rotating fire from these matchlock muskets, matchlock weapons. Very interesting. Yeah, AMA Gaming. Shogun is a great, great series. I think it's on Hulu. Yeah, everyone should watch it. It's also really good historically. It's not perfect, obviously, but really good historically. Um, yeah, Oda Nobunaga, fascinating guy, and he also I mentioned the peasants. He was able to enlist peasants into his military, which was not common at the time. and kind of train them in the use of weapons. Oh my god, I love Blue-Eyed Samurai AMA gaming. Oh my god, you have good taste, AMA gaming. Okay, so let's watch this real fast. And I just watch. It's very short. It's like 7 minutes. So this is again Japanese Swordmaster. What this guy does, the guy who makes his videos, he brings this Japanese Swordmaster different historical weapons, and then the Japanese Swordmaster kind of figures out how to use them himself. Um, yes. Oh my God, Meowsword, you're speaking my language. Yes, Age of Samurai Battle was very good. Okay, another great one. So real fast, let's watch this.
平で叩いてこうやって。平で叩いてこうやって。僕らの感覚だと、こうするでしょ。
So he has a
こうついて
broadsword
てほしいんだよね。
and he's
This
trying
is
to figure out how to
probably the
use it.
closest technique to our unique parry techniques in our Ryuha, Asayame Shinryu.
なかなかいい。ちょっとぶつかりましたね。
Okay. So and you can find if you guys I recommend this channel. If you go, he does all kinds of different weapons from different ages, from different places, and kind of learns them as he's go because he's so good with these things. Okay.
Konnichiwa, and welcome to Let's Ask Six Sensei. I'm your host Shogo from Let's Ask Shogo, and this is Six Sensei. Six Sensei, 本日もよろしくお願いします。お願いします。こちらですね。
わかんない。
これ実はロングソードです。
どう使っていいかわかんない。
I have no clue how to use it. He says.
全然ちょっ
Okay.
とロングソードと刀全く違うものではあるんですけれども、まあたくさんですね。
Can everyone?
先生
So
ヒーマンについて
can
どう
everyone
お考
see
え
what he's saying? I could actually. I could put on. I think the subtitles. There we go. There's some subtitles.
ですかっていう実は意見が出ました。
Six Sensei is a Kobudo master with more than 40 years of experience in training with Japanese katana. However, none of us have any experience with Western swords. But I thought it might be interesting to hand a longsword to Six Sensei, who doesn't know anything about it, and see how he would try to use it. So today, Six Sensei, the 22nd headmaster of Kobudo Asayame Shinryu with 400 years of history, will try fighting with a longsword with zero experience and knowledge. I hope this
Okay.
video will be interesting for anyone training with longswords, to see what a katana master with
Oh my God, Alan, you're right. Sorry, I had to pause it. Alan says it's crazy seeing all the advancements and innovation out east, but America, it's like America invents a new kind of racism. Exactly, Alan. Exactly. Yeah, RPB. Yes. What is that game? RPB? Is it Assassin's Creed? Is that the one I'm thinking of where there was a bunch of backlash because Yasuki was sort of included as a character? I don't think they called him that, but it was true historically. There was a black samurai who was an African who became an expert samurai swordsman, and then of course the right wing freaked out and was like, "This isn't historically accurate." No, it is. It absolutely is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. RPB. Okay.
think of doing with the longsword. However, again, we have no experience with Hema and longswords, so if you are making any mistakes or have any misunderstandings, please let us know in the comments. By the way, tickets for the
Right,
3-day
AMA.
train camp in Japan by 6SA and Let's Ask Shogo are now on sale. Check out our Patreon
Okay.
page for more
We'll get
information.
there.
So then, let's get started.
Okay,
After
so let's see what he
6SA
learns.
swung the longsword around in the dojo for a while, there was something he wanted to say immediately.
これがちょっと自分に当たりそうになるね。邪魔な感じがするね。
ですよね。音がすごいですね。
こう危ない。
あ、確かに。
For katana users, the handguard that stretches to the side is something that we are not used to. If you try to swing it like a katana, the handguard hits your head and shoulders. So Sisensei has a question for any longsword trainees watching this video.
僕らの感覚だとこうするでしょ。こうついててほしいんだよね。知りたいとこ
どういう風に使うのか。
逆にもう何もわからない。
From our point of view, we would want the handguard to be stretching in the direction of the sharp edge. Why is it in this direction, and how should we handle it correctly? Are we doing something wrong? But there was one part that he liked very much.
これはいいね。
Weirdly enough, the Europeans went. So that was one of the most common stances you would do. 1 second. So when you have a sword, right, especially a long sword, the typical way to hold these things was above your head. You would I can't really do it because of the ceiling, but you can see here, if I were to get down like this, okay, you would kind of enter battle with it up here like this, all right? In a lot of movies, you see them come in like with it down here, like, oh, I'm gonna stab you. Okay, that is not how they would do it. They would typically have it above their heads, which would give you more range of motion and things like that. So it's interesting though that this Japanese swordmaster understood immediately that that's where it should be, is above your head. Okay. All right.
あ、下のところでストッパー
止まるから。
がついてるっていう。Because the end of the hilt is slightly larger,
Me too,
you can
RPB.
throw thrust the sword forward and it stops in your hand. This is actually a technique you can do with the katana too. We'll make a video about that soon. Then let's have Tsukara-san join with a bokuto to see how you could fight against the katana. The
Okay.
various obvious difference between
Yeah,
a
he
long
does
sword and a
sword.
katana is.
反りがないからね。反りを使えないです、単純にね。
For example, using the maki techniques we've introduced before is very difficult without a curve. Other typical techniques like ukenagashi and hitting the katana away worked, but Sensei
See,
was
God, he's
constantly
amazing.
surprised by how long the sword could reach. However, when he tried half swording, we found a problem.
ああ、これが。
The handguard got caught in the opening of the kimono. There are various theories, but this could be another reason why the tsuba handguards of Japanese katana are round. But because the tsuba is round, it doesn't do as much guarding as a longsword.
ただ、受けんのには安定するね。ガンってこう。これ絶対安定する。
刀のつばより全然安定しますね。
全然安定するね。
Yeah.
ガン
Yeah,
You could
he's
do something
challenged by it,
similar
but
with
he's
katana,
learning very
but it
quickly.
wouldn't be so stable. After trying various techniques with longsword, there was something that Sensei realized.
これでさ、こう使うと反りがないけど、こう使えば使えるのかな、
Oh, he's good.
こう、平でこう、ペンと。そう一電流のような作用ができる。
Just knocks it out of
If
the
you
way and
flip
stuff.
the sword and use the wide side of the blade,
Which is
you can
what
parry
they
the
used to
opponent's
do.
sword.
They used
This
to
is
use it to
probably
hit.
the closest technique to our unique
All right,
parry
bye-bye,
techniques
Meowzord.
in our Ryuha, Asami Shinryu. Then, if this is possible, Sensei thought up another technique you might be able to use.
これね、平で叩けるかもしれない。平で叩いてこうやってる。平で叩いてこうやってる。日本刀だったら刃でやるのね。刃でやってこっちへこう返すんですよ。これ平でね、平で叩いてこうやる。ほら。
Yeah, he's so good.
勝手にそれていく。勝手にそれていく。
If you try to use this technique from the Jodan upper stance, you must make some adjustments.
こうなっちゃうけどね。こうなっちゃうけどね。だから引いて使おうかな、俺が。そうすると突きになる。
Yeah, so very competent with this. Like he learns very quickly.
こう。あ、なかなかいい。
ちょっといいところが、ちょっといいところ見つかりましたね。
平に当ててこうするっていうのがなかなかいい。
ああ、いい発見ですね。Thanks to Sensei
Yeah.
realizing this technique, he started to like the longsword very much. Then from here, Tsukara-san will hold the longsword instead to see how Sensei will fight against it with a katana.
So now he's trying to figure out how to fight against
After
the sword.
trying out a variety of techniques, there
It's
was
almost
something
over
that
here,
Sensei
but-
realized.
そっか、これね、真ん中にしのぎ立ってっから。
I know, right?
Right.
Oh, right.
ああ、なるほど。
Pizza.
だからこう当てがう。そうするとほら。
でも、スパンって言ってしまうんですね。
でこう当てがうとこう入る。
Shinogi is a word that refers to the ridges on the blade. Because the shinogi of the longsword is in the middle of the blade, there are two sides where the blade could get parried away, which is
Yeah.
much more easily parried than a katana if you use our Asami Shinryu techniques.
合わせない方がいいけんだね。だからこうやっといてブンブンくる。ね、合力でブンブンくるっていうのがいいかもしれない。合わせるとやりやすいね。日本刀を合わせると。
This was the biggest and most interesting finding we had this day. In
Yeah.
traditional Japanese kenjutsu, effectively using the shinogi to block, parry, and attack is very important.
Okay, so there you guys go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so just a little interesting thing there. I love that channel. Okay. All right, guys. Let me see here what else we got here. All right. And again, plugged my mic. Yeah, I just unplugged it accidentally. I got too excited. I knocked it out. That was my fault this time, not the mic just turning off. Okay. I just super interested. The name of the channel, by the way, is Let's Ask Seki Sensei. Okay. If anyone's interested. Okay, I'm back. Okay, guys. I got excited. I did so, Cal. Okay. All this sword play, so Cal. All right. So, what else do you guys want to talk about? If there's anything else you want to talk about, I am open to talking about it. If anyone has questions, either about his history, modern day politics, um, uh, whatever. Shh, AMA. How dare you? Okay, just kidding. Okay. What do you got for me? I am willing to talk about most things here. Most things SoCal. Okay. Um, I could just start talking about something like I normally do, but I want people to. Um, you would have been fun to hang out with if I was 18 years younger and I'm still. Oh, I didn't know you had lived in Columbus, SoCal. Actually, I think you did tell me that. Um, yeah, no, I would have loved to hang out with you, SoCal. I thought we would have had a great time. Okay. I also like Columbus is a great city. I mean, I know you live out there in Florida, um, but I mean not Florida, California. So you probably Columbus probably seems kind of backwater at this point, but I do like Columbus a lot. Oz, Japanese paper armor. Yes, it was. It really was Oz. A Japanese paper armor. Uh, um, yep. So here's Japanese paper armor. It was literally armor made of like folded paper. But it worked really well because okay. Oh, Masada is very interesting. Okay, so let me see here. The channel, yeah. Oh my God, it's true. Pizza. Medieval knights, especially male knights, would sometimes engage gay in certain acts. Okay. Um, AMA Gaming. Have you heard? That's right, Long Beach, SoCal. Although maybe I'll come out and visit you sometime, SoCal, because it's been a long time since I've been to California. Anyway, AMA Gaming. Have you heard about the Rigia Comedy Festival? No, but I'm guessing AMA Gaming. Is it sponsored by the Saudis? Is that what that is? Would you tell me about it? Actually, I can look it up. Um, uh, Rigia, Comedy Festival. Okay, then yeah. Um, yep, yep, yep. Yeah, I'm embarrassed that Bill Burr would be participating in that. Um, like that's Jesus Christ. Yep. Oh, so is Pete Davidson. I didn't hear. This is crazy. Are they going to? Yeah, I about to say they also. I know Saudi Arabia often uses basically slave labor. It's not slave labor. It's very low paid international workers to do these things, and a lot of times they die. And not to mention the human rights record of Saudi Arabia. That is disgusting that these people are participating in this. Jesus. Okay, great. Yeah, just free propaganda for the Saudi regime there. Um, that's so cool, Oz. The Japanese paper. Yeah, Masada is very cool. Uh, yeah, The Plantagenets is a great book. Pizza. Another really good book too is The War of the Roses. I also recommend that one if you want to read about War of the Roses is a historical narrative. It is history, but it reads like a fantasy novel because it's like Game of Thrones. That's what Game of Thrones is based off of is the War of the Roses. Um, Jesus Christ, are you serious, AMA? Yeah, no thank you. I would not. I would not, especially as a gay man, participate in a Saudi funded propagandistic comedy festival with how they treat the LGBTQ community, with how a lot of times women are treated there, um, with how they treat foreign workers. Yeah, pizza. Highly recommend it. Allison Ware, Weir is the name of the author there. Um, yeah, you're right, John Gray. If anyone has anyone here played, what is it called? Um, Kingdom Come Deliverance, or is that the most recent one? Kingdom Come Deliverance. Um, yeah, very gross pizza. But of course, pizza. Have you noticed pizza how the United States is always screaming about how Iran violates human rights and things like that, but they never seem to criticize Saudi Arabia, right? I wonder why. I wonder why that is. Maybe because of their allies and the oil and all that other stuff and the financial interests. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, weird. I wonder why. Okay. Uh yeah, it is. Yes, okay, AMA Gaming. So I'm glad you so yeah, really great game, folks. Highly recommend it. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Um, and that's what I mean by that is yeah, Austin comedy scene. I got you, John Gray. That's funny, okay? So Kingdom Come Deliverance, the main character, you can actually engage in a same-sex relationship. And they do it actually really well. What I mean is that they show it pretty historically accurately and how these things would probably take place. Um, it's interesting. It's a really great game. It's also just a really fun game. Uh, so, yeah, okay. Uh, Austin Trans Brain is pretty yeah, yeah, John Gray. Uh, all right. Yes, Pizza, another great game. Plague Tale: Innocence. That is a piece of art, that game is. With all the rats and things like that, moving your character around, trying to avoid the rats, trying to avoid being seen, things like that. Brilliant game. And just the idea here, I should say that the protagonist is also a really interesting character because, first of all, it's unusual for there to be a female protagonist. There's been more of it recently, but a female protagonist trying to protect, is it her sister or her child? I can't quite remember. Um, and like, there's not really much weapon play in that game, right? It's just trying to protect this child as a woman and make it through these horrific scenes. Uh, yeah, it's really good AMA. I recommend it. Um, Yeah, thank you. Her little brother. For those who don't know what the hell we're talking about, let me show you here, because we have the whole world at our fingertips. We have the internet, don't we? Um, is there a new one of that coming out, by the way? I think I saw that there's a sequel coming out. Plague Tale. So, video games. I'm not saying this. Okay, I'm saying this because I know a lot of folks, especially older folks, and if you are an older person, I'm not trying to stereotype here, have a sense that video games are like a waste of time, blah, 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 blah. But you have to understand at this point, video games are art. Like undeniably, they can have these profound impacts on people. The story, the art, um, it's almost like reading a book. The storylines, things like that. Um, okay, here we go. Plague Tale's Innocence. So, uh, and just to show you here, what this kind of looks. Okay, you know what? Let's look at. Um, you know what? Let's watch the trailer for the new one. I think I've seen it, but it was a long time ago. Uh, yeah, John Gray, I highly recommend it. Okay, she does have a sword in this one. Okay, excellent. Uh, so I think this is the new one. Yeah, Plague Legacy. Sorry, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm just trying to watch. Okay, yeah, so in this one, there's more combat. Was there combat? I don't remember there being combat in the first one. I have played Silent Hill. I also really like Silent Hill anime. Oh, I wish this wasn't. That's right. It was just a slingshot. I kind of wanted to see gameplay. Oh well, that's okay. But very good game there. Love it. Love that game. Um, uh, hey, AMA gaming. I barely have self control about these things too, so I get it. Okay, I think I shared my Steam library in the Discord. By the way, folks, if you're watching and you want to join our community, we have a Discord link. You could find it in the video description. Um, and you can recommend things to react to, etc. I don't know how many people are watching right now. Probably not too many because of how late it is, but it's something you can do if you are watching. Um, okay, so that's another great game, Plague Tale. Um, all right, so what am I missing here? Another great game. Yeah, so Silent Hill is good, AMA. I really like the horror genre. Um, I especially like horror movies. I also like a lot of horror video games. Have you ever heard of Soma? Soma is a really good game, really just kind of disturbing, but a good game. There's a lot of really good horror games out there. Um, I remember the first time I played, oh, what is it called? Dead Space. That was kind of a horrific experience. Also, Alien Isolation is really good. There's a lot of really good horror games out there. Um, oh, me too, AMA. Love Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a good game too. I will say, admittedly, I have not played the recent Resident Evils. Yeah, Outlast is really good. Also, Outlast is terrifying pizza. Yeah, I have not played the recent Resident Evils. I kind of, this is nothing against Resident Evil. It's a great game. I just got kind of sick of the same sort of gameplay, but it's still a great game and stuff. Don't get me wrong. I've actually watched people play it because I haven't played it myself. Um, uh, Outlast is very good. Oh, Alan Wake. Yes, Alan Wake is sort of one of those hidden gems, John. That it didn't get much attention when it originally came out. But it kind of looking back, it's a very good game, a very good story. Um, I played it a while ago. It's very good. Uh, Another really good game there, Alan Wake, for those that are interested in that. Um, yes, pizza. What is that called again? What is that called again? The Hideo, I forget what I think I've seen that. Um, if you can tell me, pizza, if you remember, I can look it up. Has anyone played, what is it called? What is it? Replicas? Um, yeah, totally John Gray, okay. Odie Knock? Okay. Let me look it up here. Odie Knock. Maybe I didn't know about this. There's that other game that came out recently. What is it called? Copies? Or like you land on a planet and you have to make copies of yourself to run this mining station. That is a really good game. It kind of reminds me of Kojima. Anyway, um, let me see here. OD. I agree, John Gray. Do totally agree. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me see. I don't think I have seen this, guys. I think you just introduced this to me. Uh, okay, let's take a look. It's a horror game. Oh, it's exciting. Okay, totally, John Gray. Artists, like true artists. Ugh, that's disconcerting. "10 years since the blank horror, the cursed blank have once again blank into." Oh my god. Ugh. Oh, that's not horrific at all. That's a very lovely face. Makes me feel very comfortable. Light the fires to celebrate their altars. Thank you, AMA Gaming. Altars. I love that game. The building was blank from a 3D scan of a blank, and then wow. This reminds me of reading FBI documents with all the redactions. Yeah, very Lovecraftian. Why is there a baby? Do you see that little baby thing? Is this like a pro-life person's altar to all the quote-unquote murdered children or some crap? Someone gonna get that? AMA. AMA. Oh my god, the graphics are amazing. Oh yeah, it's what's-her-face. Oh my god, look at those graphics. Did Steve Bannon just walk in behind her? Right, SoCal? That's right, AMA Gaming, okay. Okay, well, that looks interesting. Okay. That's how I felt when I saw Netanyahu with Trump yesterday. Okay. Sorry, I make jokes when okay, anyway. All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys for telling me about that. I'm gonna have to look into that. That looks fantastic. SoCal, I am actually the same, okay? Um, when I was in graduate school, I actually taught an undergraduate course on horror movies. Um, I get more scared playing horror video games because I'm actually like invested in it and I'm playing it than I do watching horror movies, though I do still like horror movies. They don't typically scare me that much. I do like them though. I know, right, John Gray? Okay. Oh my God, you're right, SoCal. Don't even give me that image. Yeah, but we must let it cook, John Gray. You're right, SoCal. Could have been much worse, been worse. You could have seen Vance with BB. Well, that's true, right? That's very true. Okay. That looks fantastic. Okay. I have so many questions though, so many questions. Why does she have a baby candle? Which I guess AMA Gaming also has. Okay, anyway. That's interesting. Super interesting. Who was it that mentioned Outlast? That's another really good game. Another great game. There you go, AMA Gaming. Yeah, exactly, John Gray. Like in video games, you're actually interacting with the world. Uh, um, uh, John Gray. I'm sorry. That's funny, pizza. You were embarrassed yourself by doing a whole spiel about how ghosts tend to target the financially disadvantaged and impoverished in my gothic lit class. That's funny, pizza. That is very funny. Yeah. Do you believe in ghost pizza, or is that why I'm trying to understand what you mean? So, as in, like, why are you embarrassed? Are you embarrassed because you you don't believe in ghosts now and you did at the time, or are you just embarrassed because you talked about it in a lit class? Just curious. Um, uh, yeah. My sister, I have a twin sister. For those who don't know, I have a twin sister. And she had a professor in college, an English professor, whose desk was a coffin, literally a coffin. He had a coffin as his desk, and he was really into Gothic literature. I personally think that's kind of badass. But anyway, off topic, Alan, but some news, Harris campaign tech vet Bavik Latia says that they lost Michigan and Wisconsin because of the genocide in Gaza, and the staff was told to shut the fuck up about Gaza. Alan, I'm not surprised at all. Because yeah, and Alan, I don't know if you remember this, Alan. All the progressives were warning her of this during the time. All of them were. All of them were. The Arab Muslim community up in Michigan, in Dearborn, was warning them of this. They did not listen. They did not listen. And why do we think that was, Alan? Why do we think they didn't listen? Because it's hard to listen when your money is being, when APAC money is being jammed into your pockets, uh, and all your consultants are telling you don't take a side on Gaza. Yeah, absolutely infuriating, Alan. Absolutely infuriating. Pizza, I made in fiction. I was embarrassed because I did a scout imitating the ghost saying, "What you gonna do? You can't go nowhere with your broke ass." Pizza, that's funny. Oh, that's really funny. Okay. Um, yeah. Uh, Pretty horrific. So look, Alan here trying to keep us on relevant, important topics, which is good. Anyway. Uh, Yeah, but, video games, love them to death. Um, that's another one of my hobbies is I love playing video games. I'm trying to do more. I know AMA Gaming has said that, you prefer the gaming streams and stuff. I'll try to do more of them. I just tend to get super tired by the end of the day, and since I've already done one stream and prepared for it, so then when I do the second one, I'm typically don't do it for very long, and so I need to figure out a way to do more gaming streams. Oh, no, Alan, don't forgive me. I know, Alan, I was like, I know you don't mind the gaming talk. I was kind of doing a deprecating joke, okay? Like, yeah, look at us, talking about gaming and stuff while there's all the Gaza stuff happening, okay? Yeah, don't I apologize. I didn't mean to make it seem like I was saying you did something wrong, Alan. I really appreciate it when you bring these things up. But you know that by now, Alan. You know I love when you bring up stuff like this. Um, you're like my personal news anchor because I'm not looking at the news when I'm streaming. Um, uh, no, AMA Gaming. I want to do gaming streams. I'm trying to figure out how to fit them in, because I love gaming streams. I think a lot of other people would too, and I think I could get more people on Twitch too if I did more gaming streams. Yes, I love horror films, Pizza. Yeah, let's totally do it. Yes. Oh my God, Pizza, you're speaking my language. When I was teaching about horror films to undergrads in grad school, that's what I would do. I would have them analyze how horror films represent the fears and anxieties of certain historical periods, classes, races, et cetera, et cetera. That is what's super interesting about horror to me. Horror doesn't typically scare me that much, but I find it fascinating what is viewed as scary and what it kind of implies. If you notice, a lot of the early horror films, like the slashers and stuff, were like primarily white middle class neighborhoods, and there would be teens who were engaging in sexual acts and then would get murdered. This was like an illustration of like a lot of white middle classes people fear of their kids, having sex and like where it would lead to, and fear of like violence from the inner cities or whatever in their minds coming into their towns. Or like Michael Myers, who was a mental patient, was like in an asylum, like their fear of people with mental health issues coming in and killing their kids who are, like all these really interesting fears and stuff mixed up into these movies. I think it's super interesting. And then you've had some more recent horror movies. Absolutely AMA Gaming, zombie movies. Think about one of the first, I get them mixed up. There was that one of the older horror movies, at totally, Pizza, it is. Gremlins is about, white people, about white fears of people of color, 100%. There is also so the zombie movies, like the one that was based in a mall, I get them mixed up. Was it Dawn of the Dead? I think it was Dawn of the Dead. I sometimes get some of these mixed up. The idea here being like all these brainless consumers in the mall, like, and especially for Black people, for people of color, like there's this sort of fear. There's this fear of like a lynch mob, right? and this kind of fear that all these kind of mindless consumers will suddenly turn on you and try to eat you and kill you, okay? Alan, do you ever have those dreams where you're being chased and fall, but they can't get back up? Yes, Alan. There's actually some psychological views on that's a very common dream. Flight and then inability to escape. Uh, there's actually 3 kinds of dreams that follow the same kind of line, Alan, that are common repetitive dreams people have. One is losing your teeth, another is tornadoes or some other big weather event, and the third one is flight and you can't escape. It is thought, Alan, that I don't know why I keep repeating your name, that a lot of times dreams, folks, when you have a dream, so in real life, right, when you're not dreaming, what typically happens is you experience something and then you feel an emotion attached to the thing you've experienced. It is thought that in dreams it's the opposite. You feel something and then your brain creates an image or a perception based off what you're feeling. So, like, if you're sleeping and you're feeling really mad about something, you might have a dream about punching someone or something, okay? So, dreams like losing your teeth, tornadoes, and not being able to escape from running, oftentimes, and Alan, I'm not psychoanalyzing you. This is just what is said, okay? And I have these dreams too. A fear of a loss of control, or like that you're going to go back to you're going to lose control, all right? That your life is going to fall apart. You're going to go back to some way that you used to be. You're going to lose control over your present moment. Okay? Losing teeth, tornadoes, and tornadoes can often be associated with having some uncontrollable outside force in your life. Okay? Um, okay, uh, yeah, absolutely pizza, okay. But Alan, yeah, so Alan, I've had those dreams before too, not being able to run. Um, it's the idea like as in there's something that you're having trouble getting away from. Like you're afraid that something's gonna catch up to you or there's something you're not gonna be able to control. One thing I've heard is a lot of people that have addiction who have had addiction problems will have those kind of dreams. Um, not only people with addiction, it's just one of those common things. Uh I get tornado dreams. Yeah, tornado dreams. Yeah, yes, yeah, right, pizza. Yeah, I mean, these are common to everyone. People have all kinds of dreams. Now, they're different in different cultures, but like tornado dreams and stuff, like some cultures, they will have like tsu a tsunami dream or some other big weather event. And is that so, Alan? Okay, see, look, I am a prophet, Alan. Okay, I'm just looking at what the scientific literature says. Um, yeah, absolutely. So when you're losing your teeth for real, Doug, I think I've heard you talk about this before, Doug. You have some issues with your teeth, right, Doug? Because I do have issues with my teeth. I think I've told you all before. I currently have a tooth that is split in half, and I need to go get a replacement for it and stuff. I have all kinds of issues with my teeth, so I get it. But a lot of folks will have dreams about losing their teeth. It's about like a loss of control. Um, and yeah, like something in your life you can't control. Now, folks, all of this is highly theoretical. Dreams are still kind of largely they're not fully understood. But I think there's some really interesting stuff out there about dreams. About like to figure out like what a dream is about, you have to figure out the emotion behind the dream, right? And then it can make sense to something going on in your own life. Obviously, they're not prophetic or anything. I mean, I'm an atheist. That's what I think. You can think what you want about them, but you see what I mean. Um, okay. So, Doug, I don't blame you though. If you haven't been to a dentist, they're fucking expensive. That you're right. I should, Alan. Although I am worried, Alan, that if I go to Canada, I might be exaggerating. I'm still a very small creator, but if I go to Canada, will the US government try to stop me from getting back in because of some of the stuff I've said online? Admittedly, I'm not big enough, I think, for that to happen. But yeah, pizza, that's really fascinating. There's a fascinating book I want to read called Why We Need Sleep. Yeah, we still don't really know. This is really weird, okay? I kid you not. The science about why we need sleep is still highly conflicting. There are people, for example, folks, it's a very rare condition, people in the world that don't need to sleep or need to sleep very little. One second here. I'm going to go back to my face here. Okay. So people that make the argument that sleep is for rest and recovery kind of ignores that there are people who survive without sleep or very little sleep. It probably is good for rest and recovery. At the same time, it seems like that might not be the main reason for it. One theory is that sleep is very useful for human beings back when we were hunter gatherers because you typically want to go to sleep at night. And if you go to sleep at night, and you get all wrapped up, it protects you from predators. And since nighttime is dangerous, it's better to be kind of hidden and wrapped up in a blanket indoors so you're not wandering around in the dark where predators can see you and kill you and stuff. So sleep might be also beneficial evolutionarily to protect you from predators. It also gives your brain a chance to rest and stuff, but like you can also do some of that through meditation. There's a lot of conflicting ideas about the how why sleep is important. Let's put it that way. Um yeah. Yeah, exactly, pizza. Like it also helps you get away from the elements. So but again, it is also good. Absolutely, AMA. Absolutely. And AMA, I didn't know you were a guy. I mean, I didn't know what your gender was, but hello, okay. Salam. The kind of off topic, but have you ever thought about doing a video or live stream on the history of queer people? Absolutely, absolutely, AMA. I keep saying this, and I promise I'm not lying. Okay, I have some plans to do some streams on the history of LGBTQ people in the future. I've gotten a lot of requests from queer folks, gay people, etc. Um, so yeah, absolutely. I know quite a lot about it. So absolutely, I will definitely do that. It's super interesting stuff, folks. I'm not just saying that because I'm gay. Some of the best academics about this topic are not gay, but they find it absolutely fascinating because it's a really interesting look into different thoughts about gender, thoughts about humanity, and things like that. So absolutely AMA. Okay. But I got to cater to all these straights out here, so I don't do it often. Okay. I'm just kidding for the straight people out there. You all know I don't mean that, but uh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Uh, all right. So, what time is it, folks? Okay. So anything else you want to talk about here? I'm going to get off here pretty soon. I know I haven't been going for terribly long, but alas, uh, yeah, Unix, Doug, very interesting. Unix, very interesting historically. Oftentimes very powerful positions. Uh, yeah, it's 9:18 where I am as well, pizza. So I guess I've been going for about what? Oh, I've been going for longer than I thought. Okay. Well, almost an hour and a half. Okay. Um, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Doug. Unix also though, Doug, it's interesting. Unix oftentimes were able to be rational more than people who weren't Unix because they didn't have as many hormones rushing through their bodies. So they were often used as advisors and things like that. Are you actually AMA, are you actually over in Egypt at the moment? You don't have to tell me. Are you actually in Egypt? Because dear God, 4:18 AM, okay? I believe it, AMA, I believe it. Um, uh, okay, because AMA, hey, AMA, if you are actually over in Egypt, I really wanna visit Egypt sometime, and I would love a tour guide, okay? Okay, oh, damn it, AMA, okay, fine, fine. I guess visit your family, whatever, okay, don't stay. I guess I won't come visit you. Okay, just kidding, I'm just kidding with you. Okay, alright, okay, I also AMA, I saw that the Egypt has built this really cool or is still building this really cool museum, for the pyramids and, like, ancient Egyptian archaeology. I would love to see it. Yeah, you're totally right, Pizza, and they were often privy to political info that only certain people knew about. They were, and they capture that really well in Game of Thrones with Varys being this eunuch who is sort of the advisor. Also, a lot of times used as a form of control of sexuality so that rulers didn't have to worry about their wives and things like that from engaging in sexual acts with eunuchs. Like eunuchs are super interesting, but I will definitely talk about LGBTQ folks, trans folks, everyone, all the letters in the alphabet soup. Um, oh, that's really cool, Amy. I would love to see that. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm gonna wrap up now. I know I wasn't on for terribly long, but alas, well, I guess yeah, okay. Alas, I'm tired. And so, I'm gonna go now. Um, uh, AMA, hey, I get it. I've had other friends from Egypt, okay? And a lot of them have never been to the pyramids either because it's super touristy, right? Like, I bet it's kinda like, why would I go to that? It's super touristy. Like, it's not really, but I would love to go to the pyramids, okay? Because I'm a tourist, right? I'm a nerdy tourist. I'd love to see it, love to see that museum, etcetera. I think they're super cool. Uh, okay. So folks, uh, all right. Well, I'm not gonna go through my whole spiel because it is late and stuff, but just remember, we have to free Palestine, okay? Free Palestine. Those people deserve to live, okay? Never stop resisting. We need major reforms in this country, and don't forget about Chainbreaker around there and the sacrifices our ancestors have made, okay? All right, guys. You all have a good night, morning, evening, afternoon, day, wherever you may be in the world. Bye-bye. Thank you for stopping by. I will stream again tomorrow.